Vidhammer Fantasy.
Welcome back to Vidhammer. I'm Spudlow, and in this video I'm going over Game 2 of the Learn-to-Play tournament in Lutz, Florida. That was in December of 2013. This is a 2,500 point matchup between my Skaven and Steve's Ogres. We've played once before in probably one of the first couple of games I ever did a battle report for. It's fun to see Steve again playing the Ogres. There's no Mammy this time, but it's all good. For Steve's list, he has a level 4 Slaughtermaster that gets Spine Marrow, Bull Gorger, Toothcracker, and Troll Guts, pretty much best possible choices for him, and a level 2 Butcher that ends up with Savage Beast of Horrors and Weisson's Wild Form. For the rest of his list, he has a large block of Iron Guts, 6 Lead Belchers, 4 Mournfang Cavalry, 2 different Saber Tusk Redirectors, and 2 Iron Blasters. My list has gone over in Game 1, I'll put the link up for you. But for my spells, my Grey Seer ends up with Crack's Call, Cloud of Corruption, Wither, and Skitterleap, and both of my Warlock Engineers end up with Warp Lightning. Other start of game elements, I've got 3 Warpstone tokens, and the Storm Vermin end up with Frenzy from the Skaven Brew effect. Our scenario in this round features a Lucky Noblar on either side. Each person has their own Lucky Noblar to control, and there's also a treasure trove on each side in each deployment zone. You get bonus points for getting your Lucky Noblar into the other person's treasure trove. Since this is also a meeting engagement scenario, we have to roll for our reserves. I end up with my Warp Lightning Cannon, Abomination, and Rat Ogres all being held in reserve. I go ahead and take the board edge and start setting up on my side. I keep things back from the line as much as I can since the Ogres have very long legs. Put the slaves in the middle since I'm not exactly sure where his Mournfang are going to go yet. For his deployment, he only has 1 Iron Blaster that gets held in reserve. He puts the Mournfang towards his center, the Lead Belchers go just above that central terrain piece. Then he's got 1 Cat Redirector in the center and 1 up top. He doesn't steal first turn, so I go ahead and start things off. The Doom Wheel rolls low for its movement, and I go ahead and keep the rest of my units back and force him to try to make a long charge. Our first magic phase ends up being 6 versus 5. I use 2 sets of 3 dice to go for Warp Lightning, but both attempts actually get dispelled. In shooting, the Doom Wheel restrains from firing into the Rat Ogres, and the Poison Wind Mortar hits the Mournfang for 2 wounds. Surprised they managed that. Good job, boys. It's over to the Ogre's turn, and the lower cat moves up while the rest take their baby steps forward. Magic is 7 versus 6. He uses 2 dice for Toothcracker, and I get an Irresistible Dispel with 3. His remaining 5 dice, he gets off Troll Guts at the higher level, and I'm unable to get an Irresistible one. That one. That would have been nuts. In shooting, the lower Iron Blaster shoots for the Warp Lightning Cannon. It gets a hit, but it actually only does a single wound. That thing's still kicking. The upper one shoots for the Warp Fire Thrower, but it falls just short. Then the Lead Belchers touch up the paint job on the Doom Wheel for 1 wound. On turn 2, I have the Storm Vermin restrain. The Rat Ogres fail to restrain, and I jokingly actually asked if he wanted to flee. It was perfectly fine to go ahead and flee, but he declined, and then I rolled double 6s for the range. But I used up all my high numbers as the Doom Wheel moves 6 inches on its 3 dice. Help It comes forward 13, gets itself in the middle, but not too much the threat for this point. I go ahead and move the others back and angle in a little bit. This round's magic ends up 7 versus 5. I use 2 dice for Warp Lightning, it hits the Mournfang for 1. Then I use 2 more for the Warp Lightning from the one that has the condenser, and that one I managed to fail. Right on. The last 3, I go ahead and go for Crack's Call, not expecting too much since he's got 5 dice to dispel, but I get Irresistible! Yay! It nicks the Mournfang, but they pass their 2+ initiative test, so it doesn't do any wounds. The Backlash puts a wound on my Noblar, kills the Poison Wind Mortar along with 12 clan rats, and sucks my Grey Seer into the void. Yay! This game is just kicking butt. In shooting, the Doom Wheel restrains from shooting the Rat Ogres again. The Warp Fire Thrower shoots at the Saber Tusk and explodes and kills 2 Storm Vermin and 4 slaves. At least I'm being consistent here. The Gutter Runners shoot the Iron Blaster for 1, and the Warp Lightning Cannon hits the Iron Guts for 6 wounds, but it actually saves 5 of them, so only 1 Ogre dies. In combat, the Rat Ogres are able to kill the Saber Tusks off. They take 2 wounds in the process, but I don't think they have to worry about checking for rabies. They're rats after all. We take a Lake Panic test for the Mournfang, but they pass. On the Ogre's turn, the Lead Belchers fail to restrain and charge the Doom Wheel, which is probably for the best since I can't get a charge distance out of those guys anyway. The Mournfang charge the Clan Rats, and I go ahead and stand and shoot with the Warlock Engineer's Doom Rocket, but it only takes out 1 Iron Gut. The Lead Belchers get the big charge on the Doom Wheel, but the Mournfang actually fail their charge as Steve begins to play down to my level. The others step up, and we head over to Magic Phase, where it's 3 versus 2. Again, Steve doing his best he can to level the playing field. He uses all 3 for Toothcracker on the Iron Guts, and I fail to dispel with my dose. In shooting, the first Iron Blaster comes up short on the Warp Lightning Cannon, and the second kills off a Rat Ogre. In combat, the Doom Wheel takes 2 impact hits and 2 more from normal attacks, and goes bye-bye. In turn 3, I go ahead and have the Storm Vermin charge the Saber Tusk. There's no other outcome for that situation anyway. The Abomination follows in the Doom Wheel's tracks and comes up short on their charge. The Rat Ogres turn back towards the battle, and the Slaves move up to try to take the Mournfang charge. Probably should have charged with the Gutter Runners, but I didn't think about it. Oh well. Magic ends up 4 versus 4. I use 4 dice for Warp Lightning, since that's the only spell I have left. And I get it by 1 point, but then I roll a 1 for the number of hits, so it has to damage me. But I actually managed to take the stave, so. In shooting, the Gutter Runners hit the Iron Blaster for another wound, and the Warp Lightning Cannon aims for the Mournfang, and actually managed to kill off 2 and wound the 3rd. Finally got a good shot out of that thing after misfiring 3 times last round. In combat, the Warlord doesn't wound, but the Storm Vermin are able to get the job done, with 1 staying behind to pet the dead kitty on the head. They overrun 9 inches, just short once again. Oh well. Over to the Ogres, where the Iron Guts charge the Storm Vermin, and the Mournfang charge the Clan Rats, who I have flee, and they end up going a whopping 6 inches with my +1. The Lead Belchers fail to restrain, and again I get helped out with my low charge distances. Clan Rats don't make it out though. See you boys. On a great magic roll by Steve, he ends up with 11 versus 6. He uses the first 2 for Toothcracker, and Steve, continually playing down to my level, manages to fail this one. So he uses the next 5 for Savage Beasts. I went ahead and dispelled it with a scroll. The last 4 I did Wyson's Wild Form, which I dispelled with my dice. The upper cannon kills off another Rat Ogre, and the lower one shoots for the Warp Lightning Cannon, but on the second roll, when he gets to use 2 artillery dice, he actually gets a misfire on both. He's still trying to keep the game interesting. I appreciate that, Steve. In combat, the Abomination is able to shrug off all the wounds and win the combat, and I actually roll high enough to catch him when he flees. Things go a bit differently down below, though. He issues a challenge with his character that has Fencer's Blades, so I accept with my Fang Leader, and I think he actually dies of a heart attack before the swings are made. My BSB actually manages to put a wound on his. Then the Storm Vermin do 4 wounds to the Iron Guts, and take his caster down to 1 wound. Then the Bonebreaker is able to finish it off. In retaliation, though, the Ogres do 18 wounds normally and 2 more in stomps. I need Snake Eyes and I fail, but I get a good runaway distance and leave the well-fought BSB in the dust. On our final turn, I have the slaves try to get a flank charge on the ogres, hoping that it'll keep them from running over the storm vermin. Then I have the gutter runners charge the iron blaster. Unfortunately, the geometry of it looks like the slaves aren't actually able to make the charge on the ogres, so he lets me go ahead and do a reform anyway, but in the end, there's not much to it. The storm vermin go ahead and run another 9 inches, and the abomination actually makes the charge distance on the iron blaster. Yay! Magic ends up 6 versus 5. I go ahead and use all 6 for one shot at Warp Lightning on the Mournfang. I get Irresistible Force. I'm able to kill off the Mournfang, but the Warlock Engineer takes a wound. He can shrug it off. In shooting, the Warp Lightning Cannon aims for the Iron Guts, but it sticks in the ground. Then in combat, the Gutter Runners are able to do 7 wounds to the Iron Blaster, and it only saves about 4 of them, enough to kill it off. And the Abomination pretty much makes mincemeat out of the other one. Over to the Ogres, he has the Iron Guts charge the Storm Vermin, who continue to flee off the board, and then he redirects into the side of the slaves. Magic is 11 versus 6. He uses 3 for Tooth Cracker on his Iron Guts, 4 for Bull Gorger on the Iron Guts, and then 4 more for Troll Guts. I go ahead and dispel that one irresistible. There's no shooting, and the final combat sees a lot of dead slaves, but I end up steadfast and manage to pass the final break test. So for points, I cleared out everything except for the 1 unit, but that 1 unit had almost all his points in it. I take the loss on this one, 15-5, but at least I actually had time to finish my sandwich at the beginning. I feel almost like Leroy Jenkins. At least I had chicken. Hope you enjoyed this battle report. Check back for more each week. Check out the 3rd round if you want to see how I do against another Ogres army list. Make sure to click like if you enjoyed the video. Do me a favor and subscribe, and send me a comment if you have any tactics or matchups you'd like to see. Till next time from Vidhammer, keep fighting.